Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got a 7-game slate here on Monday night to choose from. In this game, we're taking a look at these Hawks looking to stick in that play-in. Minnesota in the same position there in the West. So we got a pretty fun game in Atlanta here. Pretty high total as well that we'll get into. Also got a video up about that Suns and Dubs game in Golden State, as well as those player props. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com. We are in full NBA swing up there on thelines.com. Also have some great March Madness stuff right now, I will say. So make sure you head over there. Check all that out. And the odds finder tool that we have up there, you can use that to make sure you're getting all the lines right there in front of you that are available to you on all these NBA bets you want to make this NBA season. Nate, let's go ahead and get into this slate for everyone and then talk about our game, Hawks and T-Wolves.
Yeah, we got Pacers -3 at Pistons. Halliburton's out, though. Pistons, of course, sitting a ton of guys as they tank. The Jazz are +7 at the Heat. Celtics -12 in Houston. Then we got Grizz in a pick'em basically at the Mavs. We're going to have to see if Kyrie Irving plays. Of course, Ja is out on one side, Luka on the other. This game, we got Wolves +5.5. They opened at +4, and the total's been bet up from 240 to 245 in some spots. We'll talk about that in a minute. Exciting game here with another 245 total is Bucks pick'em at Kings. And then the other game we break down, Suns +4.5 at the Warriors. Total's been bet down there from 240 to 236. A lot of high totals tonight, a lot of movement on the total. And I think we can take advantage of the fact that this one's up to 245. While the Hawks are a scary team to take an under with, especially at home, the Wolves are just not a team that I'm going to trust to consistently get into shootouts by any means. They are coming off that overtime loss to Brooklyn, which is, Brooklyn's just been playing some crazy basketball lately and finding ways to just extend the game, get it high scoring. Previous 3 for the Wolves on the road went way under, including only getting 94 points at Philly, which is definitely not a good sign for your offense. And that was a game where Anthony Edwards had a really good game, right? And he is just their only source of offense right now consistently. Like, everything else is going to have to flow off teams helping off him. He has not done well at all in his career against Atlanta, though. 14 points per game on 32% shooting. And you look at the status of Rudy Gobert, of course, important. He tweaked his ankle in that Friday loss. He's questionable tonight, probably going to be able to go. It is a bit of a weird revenge factor where they're him and Conley facing Quinn Snyder now for the first time. And it's like, well, how much is that going to motivate him? How much is Quinn going to have ideas about how to exploit Rudy? But, I mean, you need personnel to exploit him. And Atlanta's just not the type of team that you see spreading him out, having multiple people knife into the lane and kick back out and keep it moving and hit threes. They're just one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. And that's where Minnesota's biggest weakness is, right? Their 4th worst three-point percentage and dead last in opponents' free throw attempts. Atlanta also very low in terms of their free throw rate. Rudy in his last 4 against Atlanta, since Clint Capella got in there, 12 points per game and not really overwhelming offensively at all in his 28 minutes, but 89 defensive ratings. So it is kind of a bogged down game. Their last meeting, you go back, it's a completely different Wolves team, of course, and so it did go over. But the previous 3, even with the Wolves playing that high-scoring, fast-paced ball, they all went under with Atlanta here. Trae Young, not exactly great numbers. And Trae Young, not great numbers at all against this Jazz team. If you talk about Rudy and Conley at the point of attack, 20 points per game on 30% from 3 his last 5 against the Jazz. So it's cross-conference here as well. There's some support in terms of that. The Wolves are really struggling to win games against the Eastern Conference, so they've gone under in 3 of their last 4 as well against the Eastern Conference. And you look at the last 11 at home for the Hawks against the West, and they've only gotten to 240 thrice. Once against Zion, aka the Pelicans when they scored a ton, the Jazz early in the season when they were scoring a ton, and the Lakers when they were scoring and going real fast. And those are all before New Year's. Since New Year's, since 2023, we got a Hawks team that's actually playing good defensive ball at times. They're rampantly inconsistent on both sides, don't get me wrong. It's just that I think their offense is inconsistent enough, and the Wolves' defense has really been great in that same span. both these teams have such low free throw rates. Both these teams have such low 3-point clips. I mean, percentage hit, that I think there's definitely a path for the under here. And I think 245 is just been bet up too high given Minnesota, given the limitations for both offenses.
Yeah, it's scary. Like we said, it's scary to pick a Hawks under right now. They're really bad on defense, to be honest. I mean, in their last 6 at home, they are giving up the second most points per game in the league at 122 there. They're giving up a decent amount of threes, which is definitely how I think Minnesota needs to continue to score. Like you said, it's an offense that is predicated on Anthony Edwards doing everything and then occasionally kicking it out, and kicking it out plenty, and occasionally someone hits a three. Because like you said, right now, if their second option is going to be Vanderbilt or McDaniels rather, cannot shoot from out there. Nice pickup on defense, but yeah, that actually helps the case of what we're talking about. They've been a bit better on defense, but I mean the Timberwolves in their own right, on the road, not good on offense. That's when you look at all these games. Other than playing Sacramento, we normally don't worry about that too much, right? With Sac, anything's possible. They don't play defense anywhere, even at home. And so that was the game that went for 272, I believe. But in a game that they won, which was a little bit of a surprise. But before that, they had 4 on the road before that, where they were averaging 107 a game and limiting teams to 104 per game in that time frame, and they were playing the Clips. It was that West Coast swing, and the Dubs were in there, and the Lakers as well. So teams that can score at home, and teams that did not score that well against this Timberwolves defense at home. One of them was a weird Sunday game, but the other thing about the the Hawks is they still can't make threes, which is wild. They still can't really shoot from deep. They don't have enough, and obviously that it's a little bit weird with those two guards. I still think that they're likely to make at least the play-in, if not the playoffs, definitely the play-in, and likely the playoffs, because they've just got such an easy schedule too down the stretch. But they're just not doing anything that they need to do to be good. If you look at how their team is based, even when you've got the pick and roll game with Capella not working nearly as well as it has in years past, you can tell that's the case by the way that they're not really able to score in the paint. They're not able to score really around inside 7 to 10 feet at all. Even when they are scoring from there, it's like a Trae Young floater. DeJounte and him it's too much your turn, my turn. They've only both had 25 points. I know that's a lot between two guys, but like this is 2 25-point scorers right here, and they've only had 25 points together at the same time 4 times this season, 20 times, like 20 points like 12 times this season. Like they just don't do it in the same game, and that's a huge problem, which I think you can also look at how this Timberwolves defense that did get a little bit better when you lose D'Lo, you're automatic, and his 25 to 30 minutes, you're already getting way better on defense automatically, and then you add McDaniels and the like, then this team has been way better on defense over their last 8 games. They're in the top 10 in terms of limiting opponent points, limiting opponent field goal percentage, and a lot of stuff around the rim, obviously with Rudy a little bit better, still giving up so many rebounds and actually stats to opposing centers are the Timberwolves. But we'll see what Clint Capella can do, especially if Rudy's not in there. But if Rudy's not in there, I don't think it necessarily helps their offense at all either. As you kind of pointed out, even without him, it doesn't matter. It's Ant's team. There's one style of play that they have. So all this leads me to go 244 is huge. It's terrifying to take an under in a Hawks game. That seems like they screw us a lot of different ways in that sense. But for a Minnesota team that's been much better on defense, I do think it's a fair statement to go under on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Naz Reid is a capable backup if he's forced to step in.
If it's a Naz Reid game tonight randomly and you're watching this and you've never seen him play before, you're going to be like, how does this dude not have a bigger contract?
Yeah. I mean, he helps their offense probably, but doesn't lose too much defensively. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, you kind of expect Rudy to play, but yeah, you mentioned the struggles with Trae and DeJounte, and it's kind of manifesting in clutch time too. Atlanta has a horrific rating right now, 97 offensive rating in their last 6 clutch games, negative 30 in the net there. Minnesota, a top defensive rating at just 100 in that same span, playing at a 95 pace. So if you do think the +5, we're going to be around there or lower, like Minnesota's going to cover, I don't really see a ton of points flowing down the stretch, and that's one way that the Hawks do go over is they give up the 3rd most fourth quarter points per game, but Minnesota's not really a team you expect to just light them up continuously, and maybe they'll be able to keep continuing to put the clamps down. here. And Bogdan Bogdanovic, we did not mention, is very much questionable with back pain, and that the Hawks' second unit is not going to be lighting anybody up either without him. He's driving that unit, so that's another factor to watch here on the injury report. And yeah, just continue to watch the Quinn Snyder era. They're playing at a little bit of a slower pace here. They're only 3-4 straight up, about dead even to the over and under. And recently, I mean, their games are averaging about 240 at home. So while we say it's scary, I mean, really the numbers indicate Minnesota's a below average scoring team, and 240 is what we're averaging. So I do think we can take.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, the average, even when you look at some of these like monster totals that Atlanta's been getting, a lot of them are under 244, and even in Atlanta as well. Like they on the road, they play less defense even. But yeah, a lot of these totals at home over there, you look at their last like 5. Interestingly, the highest scoring one was with Cleveland, and then they had a game against Brooklyn. But then there's like 4 others in there with plenty of fast-paced teams, including the Blazers that the Pacers the Hawks are still going under. So that is all the time we have for you in this one, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also want to give that disclaimer Nate was saying. Make sure to keep your eye on the injury reports there to make sure you see who's playing in these games for the NBA all the way up until tip. And until we see you next, happy betting.